Hello, beautiful Libra soul. This is not just another horoscope reading. This is a divine message and it's arriving right on time. God is pulling you away from certain family dynamics, not to punish you, but to protect you and to prepare you for the life you were always meant to live. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like the emotional glue holding everyone else together while slowly coming undone yourself? Have you been playing the role of peacekeeper in a household that never learned how to honor your voice, your truth, or your need for inner stillness? If you're nodding your head, Libra, that's not a coincidence. It's a confirmation. You didn't find this video by accident. You were guided here through your weariness, through your longing for peace, and through the quiet whisper that says, there has to be more than this. And there is. This is a sacred moment of recognition. Because while you've been trying to balance everything for everyone else, God has been gently working behind the scenes to rebalance you. Right now, the divine is orchestrating a separation not to isolate you, but to set you free. You are not being abandoned. You are being realigned. You are being pulled out of environments that no longer nourish your spirit, out of patterns that have kept you dimmed, and out of relationships that confuse loyalty with silent suffering. This is the beginning of your return not to a person, not even to a place but to yourself. In the coming minutes, we're going to walk through what this soul separation really means. I'm going to show you the signs that you've been chosen to break cycles of emotional imbalance, to rebuild your concept of home, and to find a new family not by blood, but by resonance. And Libra, I want you to know something sacred. You have permission to grow even when others stay the same. You have permission to be loved for who you are, not what you maintain. And you have permission to walk away from the familiar if it's costing you your peace. If any part of you feels seen in these words, take a breath. This is your alignment moment. And if you're ready to claim it, leave a comment below with the number 22, the sacred number of soul restructuring. Let the universe know you're listening. I also want to take a moment to thank you, deeply, for being here. For every like, every comment, every subscription, you're not just supporting this message, you're expanding the reach of light for others who are still searching. Your presence here empowers this spiritual space we call Zodiac Whisper Tarot. It brings depth. It brings devotion. And yes, it brings destiny closer to all of us. So stay with me until the very end of today's reading. What the universe is revealing is nothing short of breathtaking. And I promise you this, by the time we're done, you will understand not just why God is leading you away from the old but also the beauty of what you're being led into. Now tell me, my loyal Libra soul. What brought you here today? It often begins with a whisper you can't explain, a subtle tension in your chest when you're around people you've known your entire life. A soft inner nudge telling you, this doesn't feel safe anymore, or I can't keep doing this. For many Libra souls, this whisper is no longer something you can ignore. You've spent years being the harmonizer, the one who sacrifices your own needs to keep the peace, who smooths out every emotional wrinkle so that others never have to sit with discomfort. But now, the weight of that role has become too heavy. And here's the deeper truth. It was never meant to be yours alone. Your zodiac essence Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of love, balance, and beauty. But too often, that energy gets distorted when applied to dysfunctional dynamics. Instead of expressing harmony through mutual respect, you may find yourself overgiving, over-accommodating, and quietly accepting emotional chaos as normal. The truth is, harmony at the cost of your own well-being is not balance. It's bondage dressed in politeness. And you've been carrying that for too long. There is a sacred reason why you're feeling this inner dissonance now. What looks like conflict on the outside, strained relationships, distance from loved ones, an urge to withdraw is actually divine intervention. Not in loud, dramatic gestures, but in small, everyday moments that redirect your path. A conversation that leaves you feeling empty. A familiar place that suddenly feels foreign. A growing realization that you no longer belong in the same energetic room where you used to shrink yourself to fit. This is how higher guidance often speaks, not through thunder, but through the stillness between. The quiet pause that asks you to reflect, what if I've been loyal to dysfunction? What if peace isn't something I preserve but something I create, even if that means walking alone for a while? Think of your life like a scale, the symbol of your sign. For years, you've been adding more weight to one side, their needs, their expectations, their unresolved wounds. And to compensate, you've been stripping your own side bare. The result? An imbalance that looks like stability to others but feels like suffocation to you. This moment in your life isn't punishment, it's realignment. The universe isn't taking people from you, it's removing roles you were never meant to play. And just like the hanged man in tarot, you may feel suspended between two identities, the one you've always been for others and the one you're finally becoming for yourself. It's uncomfortable, yes, but necessary. Because healing requires stillness, perspective, a new vantage point. And like the star, your second guiding card, you are being led toward a softer kind of hope. One rooted not in other people's validation, but in your own worth. Healing doesn't always look like closure or reconciliation. Sometimes, it looks like distance. Like boundaries. Like choosing quiet instead of explanation. And you're not doing anything wrong by craving that. In fact, it's a sign that your inner compass is finally recalibrating to you. As you walk through this phase of necessary separation, remember, compassion is still sacred, but it's not a reason to stay somewhere that keeps draining you. There's a quiet instruction, not from dogma but from wisdom, that reminds us, you are not called to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You were created to reflect light, not dim it for the comfort of others. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for the people you care about is to stop letting them take pieces of your peace. You're not being selfish. You're being called. And even if others don't understand it yet, your soul already knows. It's time to rise lovingly, but firmly into the version of yourself that no longer needs to be weighed down by imbalance masquerading as love. Sometimes, what begins as a subtle discomfort becomes the very signpost of transformation. You may have noticed this growing tension, not necessarily loud or dramatic, but persistent, like a background hum that never quiets. For Libra, whose soul mission is rooted in balance, grace, and inner harmony, this disruption is not a threat, it's a calling. And the reason it's showing up in the context of family is because that's often where our deepest patterns begin, and also where they are most fiercely protected. Astrologically speaking, Libras born between September 23rd and October 2nd are often highly attuned to energy but raised in environments that do not validate their inner world. You may have grown up surrounded by practical minds or emotionally distant caregivers who dismissed the depth of your feelings as too sensitive or overthinking. Over time, you learned to suppress your natural desire to process and harmonize. You became quiet, careful, and eventually, invisible to yourself. Those born between October 3rd and October 12th may have experienced the pressure of scarcity, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual. In such homes, worry replaces wonder. Fear becomes the dominant energy, and survival often comes before expression. Even if your family did their best, the atmosphere they created may have taught you to mistrust ease and brace for the worst. This creates a deep-seated fear that good things won't last and that your dreams are indulgent rather than sacred. And for those born between October 13th and October 22nd, the pattern may look more psychological, where love was offered conditionally, and guilt was the invisible string that kept you tethered. Your self-worth may have been measured by how well you met expectations, not by who you were becoming. You might have internalized the belief that asserting your needs would mean causing conflict, being selfish, or even losing love altogether. But here's the gentle truth: you are not being separated from your family because you are wrong. You are being released because you are ready. When a soul has reached a certain level of growth, the old structures can no longer contain it. Just as a snake sheds its skin, or a bird outgrows the nest, this parting is not abandonment, it's sacred evolution. In numerology, the number 7 represents a turning inward, a time of spiritual clarity and inner alignment. And the number 11 symbolizes the gateway between what has been and what is becoming. If you've been seeing either of these numbers lately, it is likely confirmation that you are passing through one of life's most defining transitions. This moment is not asking you to abandon your past. It is simply asking you to rise beyond it. You are not dishonoring your family by choosing peace. You are honoring your purpose by no longer making yourself small to avoid disturbing others. And while it may feel painful at first, trust that clarity is a kindness. As you reclaim your space, you'll notice that the relationships which are truly aligned will adapt, and those that aren't will naturally fade. During this time, turn toward energies that support your healing. Surround yourself with the color soft green. It soothes the heart and restores emotional equilibrium. Lavender tones can also be powerful now, helping to awaken your intuition and clear any residual emotional fog. And most importantly, listen. Not just to the voices around you, but to the quiet certainty within. Let your next steps be guided by the wisdom that whispers, "Not everyone you love is meant to walk your entire path with you." And that's okay. Some were there to teach you contrast so you could choose truth. Others were there to show you how far you've come. But now, the road bends and you are being invited to follow the curve toward your own becoming. Some shifts in life don't come with closure, they come with clarity. What once felt like a safe harbor begins to feel like a cage, not because you've become ungrateful, but because your soul is growing faster than the space around you can hold. At this stage in your journey, Libra, you are being invited to reimagine what family means, not as a structure of inherited obligations, but as a constellation of resonance. A soul-based ecosystem is forming around you, one that doesn't demand performance or perfection, but simply reflects who you are when you're unguarded and fully alive. This is where the journey becomes sacred. You are no longer being asked to play the role others assigned to you: peacekeeper, fixer, harmonizer. You are now being asked to stand in your true energetic essence. The community that's coming into your life will not love you because of the roles you fulfill, but because of the frequency you carry. These are the people who will sit with you in silence and still feel close. They will hold space without asking you to shrink. They will recognize your growth not as a threat, but as a shared celebration. When you draw the Six of Swords in tarot, it signals a Krasinga movement away from old emotional terrain and into calmer waters. This isn't just a physical move, but a psychological and energetic one. You are in the middle of a passage, and while it may still feel foggy, there's a new shore ahead. The Ten of Pentacles in reverse further affirms this transition. The systems you inherited, whether family legacies, traditions, or spoken and unspoken rules, are no longer sustainable for the person you're becoming. And that's not failure. That's evolution. You're not losing your roots, you're replanting them in soil that allows your soul to bloom. This new soil might come in the form of chosen family, friends who feel like home, mentors who nourish your truth, or quiet spaces where your inner voice is finally the loudest. You're stepping into a life where belonging isn't tied to obligation, but to mutual alignment. To support this transition, consider giving yourself emotional permission to say what hasn't yet been said, even if no one ever reads it. Writing a letter you never send is a powerful tool. It allows your energy to move. It tells your nervous system, I hear myself now. It's not about blame or confrontation, it's about release. When we hold unspoken emotions, they accumulate like weight on our chest. And in letting them go, we make space to breathe. Also, start your days with a quiet personal ritual that reclaims your power. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be as simple as lighting a candle, putting your hand on your heart, and whispering, I am allowed to begin again. This is your way of reminding yourself that your energy belongs to you first. That you are not required to carry what no longer serves. That you are building a life that mirrors your inner balance, not compensates for someone else's chaos. Remember this gentle truth: sometimes, being led away from where you've always been is the greatest form of care. There is wisdom in the quiet detour, in the relationships that fade, in the roles that dissolve. Not everyone who walked with you was meant to finish the journey by your side. And that's okay. You're not failing, you're unfolding. You're not leaving, you're arriving. Let yourself walk slowly, but forward. Let the old titles fall away. Let the silence between relationships become sacred space, not sorrow. A new soul family is already forming. You don't need to search for them, they will recognize your light when you're no longer dimming it for anyone else. When everything outside you feels like it's demanding your loyalty, but everything inside you feels like it's asking for peace, it's time to pause. Libra, your journey has never been about choosing sides, it has always been about choosing alignment. And sometimes that alignment means breaking away from the expectations of those you love most. You've spent years carrying the weight of what others needed from you. And while your compassion is a gift, it was never meant to be a leash. This is the season where you begin to understand that caring for your own soul is not selfish, it's sacred responsibility. There is a deep and often unspoken belief, especially for someone like you, that choosing yourself somehow means betraying others. But that belief was built on survival, not truth. You were taught directly or subtly that self-sacrifice is the highest form of love. But real love does not require the erosion of your spirit. Real love doesn't ask you to become invisible just to make someone else feel comfortable. And real peace doesn't come from pretending you're okay when you're not. It is far more honest and far more powerful to feel the sting of loneliness in your truth than to feel falsely accepted under conditions that ask you to dim your light. That kind of conditional acceptance leaves you fragmented. But honesty, even when it isolates you temporarily, returns you to wholeness. There is quiet strength in being able to say, I still love you, but I love myself too. That's not rejection. That's recalibration. From an energetic and physical perspective, long-term stress from emotional misalignment is one of the most overlooked causes of imbalance. It creeps in subtly, first as tension, then as fatigue, then as symptoms in your digestion, your sleep, or even your hormones. Your body is never trying to punish you. It's trying to speak to you. It's reminding you that peace isn't just a spiritual ideal, it's a biological necessity. To support your nervous system through this emotional shift, integrate small, nurturing rituals into your day. Sip calming teas like chamomile or lemon balm. Add magnesium-rich foods or supplements to support your mood and sleep. Practice deep belly breathing. Even 5 minutes a day can rewire your stress response. Prioritize omega-3s from flaxseed or fish to nourish your brain and heart. These are not luxuries, they are acts of devotion to the life you're creating. On the career and financial front, this is a moment of reckoning. Ask yourself honestly, are you building a life that reflects your desires, or someone else's expectations? You might be standing at a crossroads where continuing as you have feels easier but emptier. Don't fear exploring a new path, even if it feels uncertain. Clarity rarely comes before courage. And often, stability finds us only after we've taken the risk to be truthful. In your relationships, remember this. No one who truly loves you will ask you to betray your own essence in order to stay close. Love that makes you feel guilty for growing is not love, it's dependency in disguise. And you are not here to shrink yourself to make others feel secure. You are here to expand. You are here to evolve. You are here to be fully seen. Starting over in love or in life may feel daunting, but you are not starting from scratch, you are starting from wisdom. And even when the path ahead is unclear, you are not walking it alone. You are being guided, held, and prepared. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your freedom. And from that place, real peace can finally bloom. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the question shifts from, who do I need to be for them, to, who am I, truly, when no one else is asking me to perform? Libra, you are stepping into that moment now. You have outgrown spaces that once made you feel safe, not because you failed them, but because you've finally started listening to the quiet truth within you, the one that's been whispering, you were meant for more. That truth is not arrogant. It's sacred. It's your soul recognizing that light doesn't ask for permission to shine. It simply does. For so long, you may have felt like a beautiful flower planted in the wrong soil. You tried to stretch toward the sun, but the roots couldn't take hold. The conditions around you emotionally, relationally, even spiritually were not supportive of the growth you were destined for. And yet, you stayed. You compromised. You kept adjusting your light so that others wouldn't feel overshadowed. But now, something has shifted. You can feel it. That tug in your spirit is not restlessness, it's readiness. The divine is repotting your life. You are being gently moved into a new environment, one that allows you to expand without guilt, to thrive without restraint. Astrologically, this transition aligns with the message of the world, the tarot card of completion. This card isn't just about endings. It's about integration. You're not discarding your past, you're weaving it into wisdom. Everything you've endured, every imbalance you tolerated, every version of yourself that tried to belong in the wrong place, it all becomes part of the rich soil you're stepping into now. You're entering a new cycle not because you've been broken, but because you've been refined. And then there's Justice, your ruling archetype, and a powerful reminder that your journey has not gone unseen. This card brings truth, clarity, and karmic alignment. It represents the return to center, the balance you were born to reflect, now mirrored back at you through choices rooted in authenticity. Justice reminds you that when you stand in your truth, the universe stands with you. You are not here to keep everyone comfortable. You are here to live your truth with such grace that it liberates others to do the same. This part of your life is no longer about convincing people to understand you. It's about surrounding yourself with those who already do. And trust me, when you are aligned with your truth, the people who are meant to stay will feel magnetized by your energy. You will no longer chase connection. You will attract it by being fully, fearlessly yourself. As you move forward, keep asking, is this aligned with the life I'm meant to live, or just the one I've been told to maintain? The answers may not come instantly, but your body will always know. Peace doesn't lie. Ease doesn't lie. And clarity, when it arrives, often feels like a soft exhale after years of holding your breath. So take this as permission, Libra. You don't need to ask for it, but I'll offer it anyway. You are allowed to shine, to start over, to say no, to walk away, and to rise higher than anyone ever expected you to. You are allowed to begin again without explaining why. If you're feeling this shift, if you know that certain relationships, environments, or versions of yourself are gently falling away, don't resist it. Let it happen. Let yourself move toward freedom. And if this message speaks to where you are, share your story below. Tell us, what are you letting go of? What are you ready to walk into? Your voice matters, and your truth may be the mirror someone else is waiting to see. Because this is not just your healing. It's ours. Together. Libra, you've spent so much of your life mastering the art of balance, navigating emotions, softening tension, and holding space for others even when you had little left to give. But there comes a moment, quiet yet unmistakable, when your soul taps you gently and says, now it's your turn. Not to keep everything together, not to be the peace for everyone else, but to finally become the peace within yourself. And that moment, Libra, is now. You don't need anyone's permission to come home to yourself. You don't need approval to be worthy of ease, of beauty, of calm. You were never asked to shrink your light so others could stay in their comfort. And if that's what you were taught, lovingly unlearn it. Because your life is not meant to be an endless performance of pleasing others, it's meant to be a radiant unfolding of who you truly are when you're no longer afraid to be fully seen. This video wasn't created to simply offer you comfort. It was made to gently invite you into action. What would shift in your life if, just for today, you allowed yourself to stop over-explaining, overcompensating, or overextending? What if you replaced guilt with grace? What if you trusted that walking away from what no longer serves you is not abandonment, it's alignment? Think about where you are still asking for permission to grow. Think about the parts of your identity you've silenced just to stay close to others. And then ask yourself this: is keeping the peace on the outside worth the storm it causes inside? You are not here to be neutral. You are here to be authentic. You are here to take up space with kindness, to choose joy without guilt, to speak truth without apology. And you are more than ready. You've already begun. By listening, by reflecting, by allowing yourself to even consider this message, you've opened the door. All that's left is to walk through it. So here's my gentle challenge to you: don't just absorb this message, live it. Take one step today that reflects the version of you who no longer needs to be accepted to feel worthy. Write that letter you never sent. Say no without guilt. Make that decision you've been avoiding. Wear your truth like a second skin. And do it not to prove anything, but simply because your soul asked for it. If something in this video resonated, if it spoke to where you are or where you're headed, share your heart in the comments below. What are you releasing? What are you reclaiming? You never know, your words might be the mirror someone else is praying to find. And if you felt held, supported, or seen by this message, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This is Zodiac Whisper Tarot, and your presence here fuels the very intention behind this sacred space. Every interaction, every shared story, is a ripple of healing into the collective. So thank you, from the deepest part of my heart, for being here. For choosing truth over performance. For choosing evolution over comfort. And most of all, for choosing you. Remember, you don't need to run, just walk forward, step by step, with quiet confidence and unwavering faith in your own light. You are not losing anything that was meant for you. You are simply, finally, becoming whole.